good and others are bad. Good habits increase our quality of life and allow us to lift others up, while bad habits do nothing but steal our joy, prevent our success, and eventually they lead us to bring other people down. What exactly is a habit? A habit is something that we do without even thinking about it. Habits are developed through repetition, and they can be broken in the same way. One day, an old man was relaxing in his garden when suddenly he received a call from a wealthy man asking to help him break his son away from his bad habits. So the father accepts the man's request and goes to see his son. He takes the boy for a walk through his garden when suddenly he stops and asks the boy to pick out a tiny plant that's growing in the path. Obeying him, the boy goes to the plant, holds it between his thumb and forefinger, and pulls it out. After walking a while longer, the man stops again, this time asking the boy to pull out a slightly bigger plant. So the boy pulls a bit harder, but the plant comes out with its roots. "Now pull that one," says the old man, pointing towards a large bush. Reluctantly, the boy approaches the bush, rolls up his sleeve, and pulls and pulls and pulls with all of his might, and eventually the bush comes out. At this point, the boy is exhausted and confused as to why he's gardening for this old man. Seeing this, the old man smiles and points to a huge tree. "Now pull that one out." The boy looks at the old man like, "Are you kidding me?" But he walks to the tree, wraps his arms around its branches, and pulls and pulls and pulls with all his might, but the tree just wouldn't budge. Panting, he looks at the old man and says, "It's impossible." Now, the old man smiles and looks at the boy because he knows that he's just created the perfect teaching moment. So it is with bad habits. When our habits are young, it's easy to pull them out, but when they have been developed and repeated, they cannot be uprooted. When I was a little girl, Granny and Granddad's house was the place to be. Any grandkid knows the joy of being with Granny and Granddad. Always a party. It is a proven fact that grandparents spoil the dog out of their grandkids. All we have to do is smile sweetly, puppy dog our eyes, and say ever so sweetly, "Granny, please." Now just remember that tactic. We'll come back to it in a minute. When I was just 3 years old, my Granny and Granddad took my little sister and I on a trip to SeaWorld. Now I was so excited, I could just see myself sliding open the car door and sinking my feet into the warm San Diego sand. The drive to SeaWorld was endless, but when we finally arrived, I was like a little girl on Christmas, just bursting with excitement. I flung open the car door and stepped out onto the warm, hot pavement of San Antonio, Texas. Turns out I looked at the wrong brochure and we were not in San Diego, California, but hey, SeaWorld is SeaWorld, so I grabbed my Granny and dragged her as fast as I could to the front gate so that my SeaWorld experience could begin. We started our day with the dolphins, paid a visit to Seymour and Clyde, the world's coolest otters, went down a few water rides, and finally, we ended our day with the main event, Shamu. All right, so for those of us who have been to see Shamu, we know that at the very end of his show, Shamu raises his ginormous tail and slams it into the water, causing a ginormous splash. And for those of us who have never been to SeaWorld, well, we might be as clueless as 3-year-old Kynzi and as helpless as my poor baby sister. I've been dragging that girl into sticky situations since day one. I had no idea what I was getting my little sister and I into when I looked at Granny, smiled sweetly, puppy dogged my eyes, and said, "Granny, please, can we sit in the front row of the Shamu show?" Of course, Granny gave in, and to the front we went. There were 4 seats open in the front. 1 for Granny, 1 for baby sister, 1 for me, and 1 for Granddad. I watched in awe through the Shamu show, and then, at the very end, Shamu raises his ginormous tail and slams it into the water, causing a ginormous splash. Now, Granny flails herself over Kaysen in an effort to keep her semi-dry, and my ornery Granddad grabs me and holds me over his head like I was Simba at Pride Rock. I took all the heat. Now, I know I was only 3 years old at the time, but that was one of the happiest days of my life, so I know that it will not be forgotten. My Granny and Granddad knew exactly what they were getting themselves into when they followed me to the front row. But you see, that just didn't matter because they knew that it would make me happy. My Granny and Granddad made happiness a habit, and then created a lasting habit of happiness inside of my little sister and I. Happiness is a choice. In every situation, we can choose to be happy. Now, choosing happy is not always easy, but it's what's right. A negative person cannot be happy, but a persistently positive person can't be unhappy. This one goes out to my Elida crew and to anyone who has been taught in the classroom by Mr. Savage. I can remember walking into Mr. Savage's room my junior year of high school like it was yesterday. It was the worst thing that I had ever smelled. It was like a combination of skunk, wet dog, and brisket. Now, let me tell you, Mr. Savage was standing up there at the front, and he was giving his famous speech. Now, I don't know what these poor kids did to Mr. Savage, but he was laying it on them. You should have seen the look on their faces. It was priceless. Now, sitting back there, I became a bit discouraged when I realized that at some point in time, the same look had crossed my face. So Mr. Savage is getting to his famous point, those 5 words that every kid from Elida can tell you. There ain't no free lunch. Yeah. Mr. Savage was getting to his point when all of a sudden the bell rings, the kids stand up and leave his room. Now, a look of disappointment and excitement passed over Mr. Savage's face, and me, I was just sitting there in the back, ticked off that those delinquents didn't get to hear the rest of his speech because we know they needed it. When all of a sudden, one of the new girls to Elida walks up to me, looks me straight in the eye, and says, "Kynzi, farmers are so scary and they smell bad too." I looked at her and I just died laughing because, well, she just didn't know Mr. Savage quite like I did. But I told her that, yes, he was a little rough around the edges, but if she would just stick with it and listen to him, she would be so smart. So she looks at me, cuts her eyes towards Mr. Savage, and quickly back at me and says, "Yeah, he seems pretty wise. I guess I'll be back tomorrow." Our ag teachers have taught us some of the most important life lessons that we will ever know. But I consider hard work to be one of the most important. There ain't no free lunch. Work hard and don't whine. You see, nothing that's worth having comes without struggle. If you want to be a successful athlete, you work hard in the gym. If you want to have good grades, you work hard in the classroom. And if you want people to respect you, you work hard to earn that respect. Mr. Savage taught me the importance of hard work, and now it's a habit. Anyone that knows me will attest to the statement that I, Kynzi Creighton, am a very, very, very competitive person. I have always wanted to be the best. When I was in elementary school, I had to run the fastest, swing the highest, and I had to have the best grades. When I was just 7 years old, I had a dream of becoming a professional gymnast. Needless to say, as I entered into those awkward junior high years, I let that dream fade away. But at the time, I meant business. I was so serious that my granddad built me my very own balance beam for my birthday. I would run to that balance beam, jump on top, stand there for a moment, then jump down and strike my pose for the judges, waiting to see my score. All right, so now let's think about a professional gymnast running to her balance beam, standing on top, then quickly jumping down and striking her pose for the judges, hoping to get a good score. Now, that would be silly. I mean, she did nothing amazing or worthy of recognition. We often live our lives in the same way, just going through the motions, never doing anything excellent, but we still want to be appreciated and recognized. If we will strive for excellence in all that we do, our actions will turn into habits. Our habits will turn into examples, and soon our lives will be filled with excellence. Now, with excellence comes success, and with success, humility must be present. We work so hard to get to the top, but when we get there, we often forget about all of the people who helped us on our journey to success. While thinking about humility, the Bible verse Philippians 2:3 came to my mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourself. How powerful is that? In humility, consider others better than yourselves. Now, I know this can be a hard concept to grasp, and I'm as guilty as any. As I mentioned, I've always wanted to be the best, but I now realize that I'm at my best when I'm helping others to be the best. Now, it's very easy to be a mediocre person. I mean, all you have to do is just go through life, just going through the motions, never striving to do anything great or leave a lasting impact when you're gone. But who wants that? If we will practice the habit of excellence in all that we do, we will become bright lights in the darkness of a mediocre world. And that is exactly what we are called to be. New Mexico FFA, make a commitment to yourself to be habitually happy, work hard, don't whine, strive to be excellent, and always stay humble and kind.
So